So hello and welcome. We're absolutely delighted to have you join us on our plant-based cooking masterclass. I'm Dave.
And I'm Steve.
And we're absolutely honoured to have you. We genuinely are.
Sorry,
just sharpening his knife. We're plant-based chefs for more than 20 years. We have written best-selling cookbooks. We've nearly 50 million views on YouTube. We've cafes and restaurants.
And farm.
And we're just so delighted to have you. We really are. We do have we've got about 45 minutes to an hour. That's what this masterclass is going to take. And the whole idea is to empower you to save money by learning how to cook delicious dishes, which are better for your health, better for the planet. And yeah, it's very exciting.
And most people want to cook healthier and don't know where to start. And many people believe it's really healthy. Today we want to show you that healthy food can be quick, tasty and delicious. We're going to cook many, many dishes just to show you our set list, just to show you behind the scenes.
This is Stephen's.
This is our set list. Look at this for sophisticated and fancy. But we're going to start with €1 dinners just to show you this, just to show you that healthy food can be quick, easy and tasty.
And just to talk through what we're going to cover quick, easy dinners. We're going to do €1 dinners. We're going to do a soup. We're going to do meal prepping basics. And if we have time, we're going to do a hummus and a chocolate chip cookie dough bowl.
There's the great Jane Esselson and Anna Esselson. Welcome.
Woo!
I saw your son Zeb today. He was great.
Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to quickly cook a €1 dinner. So the €1 dinner is, and the promise for this is that Shawnee's just going to fix one of the cameras. One of the cameras is not quite working.
Shawnee's the legend behind the scenes.
So you might see some legs here now.
Oh, I have the,
Okay. But our €1 dinner is really, it costs €4. We literally got these today in the store. It costs €4 and it's going to feed at least 4 to 6 people. So it's probably less than €1 per dinner. It's using all whole plant foods. And the benefit of whole plant foods is that they're cheap, they're affordable, and they're super beneficial to your health.
Correct.
Okay, yes. So, we're 1 second away. Shawnee's just one of the slight technical issue. This is the top-down shot, which we're getting sorted.
We have a 3-camera setup today.
And there's only 2 of them working. Oh! Thank you for your patience, everyone. And it's so wonderful to people joining from all over the world. So we are honoured. We are here in Greystones, County Wicklow in Ireland.
This is our studio.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so €1 dinners. So talk to me about this, Steve.
Okay, so fundamentals we're going to start with. We're going to cook a simple, low-fat, quick 5-minute chili. You all right, Johnny?
Oh, if that
okay, well, let's just work with 2, then we're grand.
Should we do it 2? Sorry, we've got one camera is a little bit off. Apologies.
well, for the sake of 2 minutes, we'll have a much better user experience.
Yeah. One of them isn't quite gone through. Apologies.
Okay, well, maybe then
I'll just show you this. So we're using what we did. The trick with cooking €1 dinners is that we're using baked beans. In a supermarket, in most supermarkets, you buy baked beans for much cheaper than you buy tin beans. So this is a wonderful hack. It really, really is. So we're using, these were 29 cents for baked beans today. So
that was in super value, so not even expensive. So we're going to start it off and we're going to show you just basic caramelization. I'm going to show you knife skills. Top tip to reduce the amount of fat in your cooking is to use a spray bottle when using oil. It'll just make it harder to use as much. And typically even like 5 sprays like that is not even a teaspoon.
It is about 10 calories. And really, if you want to cook even healthier, just cut out the oil completely, which is very possible. But in this case, we want to introduce you to delicious, tasty plant-based foods. We're going to use a little bit of oil.
So I've got 1 onion, which I was doing knife skills earlier. So I don't want to waste it. So I'm just popping it in. What the oil does is it helps distribute the heat more evenly and it creates more caramelization by raising the temperature more consistently throughout the dish, the cooking process.
Yeah. So this dish, as we said, it cost us probably €2 to €3 and it's going to feed 4 to 6 people. Hello from Belgium. Hello. So I found some couscous in the press, which I'm going to serve it with. I'm just going to pop in a little bit of couscous.
Nice. Would you use white or wholemeal couscous?
I'd always use wholemeal couscous. Wholemeal couscous.
So when buying couscous, unless it has hole in front of it, it's going to be white. So I just put a little pinch of smoked paprika in there.
And I'm going to put in a little bit of salt.
Just mix it through it.
Mix it through, or I'm going to pop a little bit of boiling water in it. And that's cooking couscous.
How long will it take?
It's really simple. It's going to take probably about 4 to 5 minutes until it's done.
Just make sure it's kind of submerged. You can see it's about maybe 1 to 2 centimeter over. Pop the lid on and we're just going to leave that sit for 5 minutes.
And we're literally like, that was leftover couscous we had in the press. You could serve this with any kind of, whatever kind of grain you might have of choice, or nothing. The whole dish by itself anyways can be less than €4 and serve less than 4 people. So as Steve said, he had 1 red onion. He just had it lying around, so used this. There was a couple of cloves of garlic. And we're cooking on non-stick pans. Non-stick pans are great because they mean you can use less oil or no oil. And it also means that, you've typically got a wider, like we like wide bottom pans because you've got more surface area to get more caramelization.
So I'm going to go in with, I just put 2 cloves of garlic. The reason why we go in later with the garlic is that garlic will brown quicker. And when garlic burns, it just goes bitter.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to avoid. In terms of veg, we were able to get these 2 vegetables for €1 today in Super Value, so pretty cheap. We're going to go with, obviously, a courgette, also known as zucchini, capsicum or yellow pepper, and 1 carrot. If you're not very good,
great.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, cool.
Do you want to show knife skills with that?
Knife skills. So in terms of knives, there are typically 3 main knives you'll use in the kitchen. Let me just show. So the most dangerous knife you can have is a blunt knife. So really learning how to sharpen a knife is a really basic skill. So the 3 knives we use and would recommend everyone to have is a simple bread knife, which is a serrated knife, which means that it has teeth in it. This is a knife which is known as a paring knife. That's just for closer cuts. And then that's a standard chef knife. In terms of chef knife, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be any brand. It's just one that you like the weight of and that it's easy to sharpen.
Yeah. So into this dish, I've got 1 carrot. I'm just going to grate it in. This is going to be a fast cooking dinner, so it can literally be done in about 6 minutes. So we've got onion, garlic. I'm going to grate in some carrot. Grating it means that when you're cooking quick, easy dinners, it's super important to use fast cooking veg. So what would be an example? This is a question to everyone watching here. What would be an example of some fast cooking veg? Dun, 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 dun.
Courgettes, peppers.
Yes, courgettes, peppers, sugar snap peas, spinach, mushrooms, all kind of veg which can be eaten raw if they necessarily need to be. So veg that can be eaten with a crunch. They're not starchy veg like potatoes, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, any of that kind of stuff, because those typically take a lot longer. So in the case of carrots, carrots is a root veg that does typically take a little bit of time to break down. But when you grate it, it's a lot easier. So I'm going to go in, once we've added the courgette and the carrot, I'm going to go in with a little pinch of salt, which will help break down the cell walls and blend all the flavors a bit more together.
In terms of chopping a pepper, often people will be left with this amount of waste here and they won't know what to do. To avoid getting the seeds on your counter or your chopping board, just chop it across there like that. You'll have this left, just chuck that in the compost, take the tip out, and voila, there we go. And to make it more efficient, as you get better with your knife skills, stack your pepper. Typically this side up is easier. You can just make it more efficient in terms of your knife skills. So your hand will always be as a claw when you're holding a veg like that, and it'll always be touching your knuckles. You'll do this type of a method. So I'm going to hold that there like that and just slice it.
So just in case you're wondering, we're cooking at a high heat because this is a fast cooking dinner, a quick, easy dinner. So I've got onion, garlic, I've got courgette and some carrot in it. We're going to fry this down for probably 2 to 3 minutes and just encourage a bit more caramelization.
And because you got a lot of veg there in the pan.
Yeah, and all this veg is pretty much 90% water. So we're trying to evaporate the water. This pan isn't quite as wide as I would prefer a slightly wider pan. But this is what we have. All our other pans were a little bit jaded. And I didn't want to add more oil. Like another little pinch of salt, small little pinch, will just help draw more of the moisture out of the pepper, the courgette and the carrot and bring it all together.
Just to recap one little bit of knife skills. As I said, your hand will always be like a claw. They always say it's like a bear claw and it's always touching your knuckles. So it's your knuckles closest to the rest of your palm, not the tighter knuckles. So my hand is like a claw. Little finger, thumb are holding this courgette or zucchini. Knuckles are back, it's touching there, and I'm just rolling the blade. So just to show you from that angle, I'm rolling. I can look around and I know I'm not going to chop my thing. So it's well worth. Knife skills are a really worthy skill to start to develop.
And the type of cooking we really espouse is cooking with whole plant foods. We've been eating a plant-based diet ourselves for more than 20 years. And really we focus on whole plant foods because they're naturally cheap, they're affordable, and they're super nutritious for yourself and for the planet. Because like it's easy to cook. Like I guess our hope today is to really inspire you to cook more whole plant foods. It really, really is.
What is a whole food?
Whole food is like a fruit, a vegetable, beans, legumes, whole grains, and nuts and seeds. So we're using whole grain couscous here. We've got lots of vegetables in here so far.
Courgette, broccoli. Okay, cool. So as we said, this is going to be a quick chili in about 5 to 10 minutes. Time to add in some spices. I'm going to put some cumin seeds because they're going to add texture throughout this dish. And by putting them onto the pan like this, they're going to pop and infuse their flavor. And if I just put a few more of the spices through it now, it's going to just infuse. They're going to wake up a little. So I'm going to go with about half a teaspoon of smoked paprika.
Smoked paprika is like, spices are super important, and really like
1 cinnamon quill.
in terms of plant-based cooking, your spices is really where you generate a lot of flavor. Will you let us know when we can find recipes for the dishes? Sure thing, of course we will. Yeah. That's a little bit of black pepper. Steve's added. So seasoning, like this is the seasoning aspect, which is very case specific to what you have in your kitchen. You could just go in with some paprika. You could go in with some cumin powder. Stephen obviously here is putting in half the kitchen sink in it.
I like quite a lot. So I've got my teaspoon. So just to recap there, I went with 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of whole cumin, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a pinch of black pepper, and I go with a little bit of chili powder. So these are spices that generally you'll have in your press, and you're just going to add them in as you go. So
okay, base veg is cooked down. So we've cooked down our onion, our garlic, our quick cooking veg in this case was peppers and courgettes.
And a little bit of grated carrot. So these were our 29-cent baked beans, which, you know,
it sounds a little awful, but wait and you see. This is going to turn into a really tasty.
It's just a good hack of just, if you're a student or someone's on a budget and doesn't want to, you know, doesn't have that much money to spend.
Most people are on budgets nowadays, and people think, you know, healthy eating can be expensive. This is super cost effective, and that hack is really, really good. It's cheaper than buying pinto beans. Like that's what's in burlati beans, or pinto beans are usually the beans which are used in baked beans. And even if you drain and rinse them, it's a great hack of saving money, because normally pinto beans or butter beans or cannellini beans, they'll be like 80 cents, whereas these were only 29 cents.
So I've got another tin of beans that are just mixed beans, just to bring more variety. We want to make this a 3-bean chili. And I go in with 1 tin of chopped tomatoes.
Just to kind of dilute the flavor from the baked beans, because the baked beans themselves will have quite a baked bean taste to it, even in spite of all the spices Steve added. So once again, we're cooking
making us hungry. Yes, indeed. Yes, apologies. Yes. So 5 basic flavors, which many people can think seasoning is a dark art that you have to go to culinary school to learn about, but everyone knows when a dish is good and everyone knows when a dish is bad. There's 5 basic flavors, and the number one thing you should turn to when seasoning a dish is salt. So first thing you do when you go to season a dish, the most sophisticated thing you have in your body, one of them is your tongue.
Your tongue is where you pick up the 5 base flavors, which are sweet, salty, bitter, acidic, and umami. Those are the 5 base flavors.
So when you look at a dish like this, and if it does look a little tight like this, you might go, okay, I'm going to put in a little bit of water. So not just water, I'm going to get a little bit of there'll probably be a little bit of flavor in the bottom of that can. I'll put a little bit of that in, just that it's got a bit more saucy feel to it. And first thing when you do to go season a dish, take it out, and you're going to go, is there enough salt? You taste it, you go, not enough salt. Take another clean spoon, take it out, and just put a little bit on the dish here like this. So you can just see, does it make it taste better? Less risk, and go, yes, tastes better.
Because you definitely don't want to risk over salting a dish. So in this case, I know that I probably need at least another teaspoon.
No, that's good.
Okay, great. So that's our salt levels are pretty good. So we added a little bit of salt.
So no amount of fancy cooking techniques or any fancy veg can make up for an under-seasoned dish. So start with salt. If it tastes flat, bland, insipid, salt is what you need to go. And everyone's salt sensitivity is different.
So next one I'm going to go with is umami. Umami is such a delicious flavor. Like it literally translates as deliciousness. And if you've watched a lot of our videos, you know, David, adore tamari. And particularly for fast cooking dishes like this, tamari, soya sauce, miso, shoyu, they're all they've used time to concentrate flavors. So we've used beans, vegetables, and, you know, water really. So there's not a lot of time embodied, not a lot of flavors that are deeply concentrated. Whereas tamari is deeply concentrated. I'm going to go in with 2 tablespoons of tamari.
That's enough. So what the tamari does is it brings that deliciousness. It incorporates more base flavors with which all the kind of flavor of the dish comes together. So it's a good hack.
I mentioned the other flavors. One of them is bitter.
Salt, sweet, bitter, acidic, and umami. So umami we've covered, salt we've covered. This is bitter. Bitter is a taste that has often been lost in the modern day palate with the proliferation of sweet foods. Whereas bitter is a great digestive enzyme. Foods that are high in bitter foods are typically higher in digestive enzymes, so they're great to incorporate. And anyone who kind of goes, oh, I don't like spinach, it typically wilts down in a dish like this to give a real nice creamy mouthfeel. So don't be afraid of it.
Okay, acidic, we're going in with lime, just a little squeeze of lime. So you obviously could use lemon or lime or even apple cider vinegar or any type of vinegar. Anything with a pH below 7. I know that sounds quite technical, but lemon, lime, a tiny bit of vinegar, if you don't have any, will help balance the acidity of the dish.
I have a little bit of cilantro or coriander as it's known. I'm just putting it together in a bowl just to be lazy. And just, again, that same chopping technique, that claw, and my fingers are rolling back so I can't chop them off. Try to incorporate as much of that stalk as you can as possible.
Where to buy tamari? Tamari you'll buy in most health food stores or most supermarkets. You'll certainly buy it online.
And if you can't get tamari, what would you get?
You just use the soy sauce if you can't. The reason why I like tamari is it's typically got cleaner ingredients and it's got a more balanced flavor to it. So just tamari, it tastes like soy sauce, but it's less sharp. Soy sauce is typically a bit sharper, a bit more kind of, a bit more acidic.
And sometimes can have a caramel color to it and wheat and different ingredients.
Yeah. Soy sauce can often have glucose syrup or other things in it.
Pretty nicey.
Let's see. For a €1 dinner, that's a good opening dish.
She's lovely. And if you can, and if you like, maybe you can afford to go to €5. Serve that with a little bit of so we got our wholemeal couscous to serve it with.
I'll show you. Let's do it up in this plate here.
Let's get a bowl.
So see our couscous. Our couscous has
let's put it in a nice. Let's look in a cool little bowl like that.
Okay. So couscous is fluffed up.
So
nicely.
what you'll do with couscous, Dave was going to rush there, but take your time. Take a fork is what you'll normally take to fluff up your couscous. So what you want to do with fluffing, the best way to fluff couscous, you're trying to evaporate some of that moisture. And just distribute the smoked paprika there and the salt just evenly, because you want fluffy, light couscous. It should be like a pillow. So as we said, couscous is a great whole food that literally takes 5 minutes to cook. It does contain wheat for anyone who's gluten intolerant or sensitive or a celiac. So obviously avoid it. So we're going to pop that into our little dish here like this.
We'll go in with a ladle of our €1 dinner.
Nice.
Very simple and tasty. And this, like Stephen did bring some leftover tortillas.
Tacos.
Little small tacos, which you could obviously serve it with tacos, a little bit of the couscous, a little bit of the chili, and then a little bit of avocado, maybe some toasted nut on top. And it can be like, it's really that simple. Like these were leftover tacos which Steve had from dinner last night. So it's thinking a little out of the box. When you're thinking of €1 dinners, it's about kind of going, okay, well, how can I quickly, like understanding, we're going to make another quick, easy dinner. And when you understand the principles, you'll understand that it's similar base flavors. In this case, we used onion and garlic. They were our base flavors. Our sauce out of this was made out of the baked beans, really. They had tomato sauce and the tin of chopped tomatoes. We had 2 tins of the baked beans. That's the beans.
One little thing, when you are plating up a dish, it's typically small little things that can take a good dish to a great dish. So here, by adding avocado, so we're getting starch here, we're getting kind of a juicy sauce, we're getting a little bit of fat here, and if you can bring a little bit of acid, it'll just complement it a little better. So this is just a simple kind of red cabbage sauerkraut that we made probably a year ago, that just lives in the fridge, and it just brings a nice balance. So that was made, the 5th, 2021. August 5th, 2021. So really nice, just simple dish. Took us, 10 minutes?
And Stephen has some, you're probably going to have a nut at home. Like there's some roasted and salted peanuts. You could even just put a little sprinkle of that if you wanted on top of it.
Voila.
Or any kind of toasted nut. That's just going to give a contrast to texture. And that's literally a €1 dinner. Obviously, we improvised with a bit of couscous we'd lying around and a bit of avocado, but really quick and simple and easy. Okay, so that's our first dish. So, and that dish will work great for a meal prep. So in 45 minutes, that's what our masterclass will approximately be. We're going to cook a number of dishes, and these will all work perfectly well for meal prep, because meal prepping is really the idea where you spend an hour, 45 minutes, and you cook your meals for 3, 4, 5 days, depending on how quick your knife skills are and how competent you are in the kitchen.
One top tip for any budding chef, you're only as good as the tidiness of your workstation. That's typically something that's often kind of thrown around in the kitchens, that, you know, if you want to work quick, you want to work efficient, be organized, manage your space, have your stuff there. It'll just be a lot more fun. Okay, next step we're going to make is a noodle satay. Are we okay? Oh, sorry. Oh, Shawnee's going to make sure to get that one. We want to get that camera.
We're going to make a quick noodle satay. So
satay originates from Indonesia, and it typically refers to peanut-based sauce. We're going to make this with a cashew nut. Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So this is going to be a quick, easy dinner again. So it's literally going to take us probably 6-7 minutes, depending on how much we waffle. But it will work great for meal prep.
And keep your comments and questions coming in, because it's great to see them all coming up.
Yeah, it really is. Thanks for your comments.
There's Julie Grove. Spent my July holiday traveling Ireland and ended up in your cafe and store. Really wanted to be there for your big swim, but had to. Good on you, Julie. Well, thanks for visiting. Hope you enjoyed it.
Okay, so with noodles, we're using whole wheat noodles. I'm going to go with 4 nests in this case. You'll get, like, when you're choosing noodles, always try to choose the
Or if you're choosing
variety.
grains, what are top tips to make sure when choosing grains that they're whole meal or they're whole
So
food?
in terms of grains, like as in pasta, as in couscous, as in rice, as in quinoa, well, quinoa is always a whole grain, or as in noodles, always try to choose the brown variety because it's got loads of fiber in it. And fiber is what really helps your microbiome to thrive. And your microbiome is where most of your immune system cells are. So in this case, I've got brown noodles. They're fast cooking. They'll take 5 minutes. I'm just going to add some boiling water to it and leave them cook away. Really that simple. And while we're doing that, hopefully we'll have the dinner cooked.
And would I season them now, Dave?
I wouldn't, but you probably would.
Yeah, typically noodles or pasta should be cooked in water that's the same salinity as seawater. So just go with a nice pinch of salt or generous pinch of salt. And don't worry, most of that salt will end up going down the sink. It'll just mean that the noodle will be seasoned from within as opposed to sitting on the outside.
Yeah.
So base of a typical Indian stock, and obviously this is an Indonesian-based dish, but it's got lots of a similar root. So we're going to go with onion, garlic, ginger, chili is typically that. So we're going to start, this is fast cooking, so we're going to go with some scallions or green onions.
Well, I'm just going to show you
a sauce, great.
So we're going to start with a sauce, and we left our blender at home, so we've improvised, and we're going to use a soup gun. And we're going to see how that's going to go. A stick blender,
also known as a
soup gun,
an immersion blender.
Oh, immersion blender, yeah. So in our base, we've got some garlic. I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I've got a thumb-sized piece of ginger. Maybe you could roughly chop these because I don't know how this blender is going to do.
Yeah, great.
We're improvising again, so Steve's just going to roughly chop them. I'm going to go in with a bit of boiling water, which I've used all of.
So with ginger, we're using organic, so we're going to keep the skin on. Obviously, if you're not using organic, give it a good hack. Give it a good
I'm going to use a little bit of boiling water. I'm just going to take a little bit out of the noodles. So just a little bit.
So recap, what are you making there, Dave?
I'm making a satay sauce. So with quick easy dinners, we've got 3 or 4 types of sauce. You've got, in the last one we had a tomato based sauce. You've got a coconut milk based sauce, and coconut could be full fat or low fat. If you're conscious of calories, choose the low fat one, or conscious of saturated fat. And the third type, which we typically make, is a nut butter emulsion or a tahini based emulsion. So in this case, we're going to use some cashew butter, which is just pretty much blended up cashew nuts. It's roasted cashew nuts in this case. And we're just going to blend that up with water and some other spices.
So
and
there goes our ginger.
So we've got ginger gone in. Stephen's going to roughly chop some garlic. I'm going to add in some cashew butter. So you could use almond butter or peanut butter. We didn't actually have peanut butter. We just had cashew nut butter. We're not trying to be posh. This was all we had though. I'm going to go in with probably 2 tablespoons of cashew butter. Can you see that, Shawnee? Yeah.
So the cashew, or as we said, this is an emulsion. Emulsion is a fancy word for a fat-based solution and a water-based solution, and they form this kind of creamy, semi-permanent bond, to make it sound more technical, but just this creamy sauce. So the fat is the cashew nuts, and the water obviously is the water-based solution, and then we're putting flavor agents through it to make this delicious. So we have 3 cloves of garlic. We had about a thumb-sized piece of ginger. Notice that nice pronounce of the TH.
Yes.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to Ireland. You could put in a little bit of ginger there as well.
Oh, a little bit of chili.
I'm going to go in with chili, and I'm going to go in with a little bit of lime and a little bit of tamari. And those are all our flavors. This is going to be our sauce, which will be super, super tasty.
Our pan is piping hot too, so I might get the show on the road here.
Yeah. A little bit of tamari. So once again, into our sauce, which would be a blender. Our blender I left at home. I've got some ginger, chili, garlic, a little bit of cashew butter, and some water, and I'm going to blend it. And if I wanted to be quite fancy, I could put in some orange, like blend it in orange as well. Oh. Oh, it's working! I don't know if you can see that over top now. So it's blending into a really nice white color. I'll show you now. So it's super smooth, it's silky, it's velvety.
And when you're making it, how do you know what texture you want, Dave?
Well, this is still a little thin.
Okay, so what would you do to thicken it if it's too thin?
Oh, the flavour is amazing.
Do you put some tamari? Do you put some tamari?
I put some tamari through it, yeah. It's
Maple?
full of flavour. I didn't put maple. I don't think it needs maple syrup.
Right.
So once again, like, we're looking at how to balance things. So
recap, what's in that?
So in this, I've got ginger, I've got garlic, I've got a little bit of chili. I put some lime in, I put some water, and then we put in some cashew butter or peanut butter. And the reason why we use the peanut butter, cashew nut butter is just it blends easier. When you're, if you're using roasted cashews or peanuts, they're not going to blend as well as the actual butter itself. So this is very smooth, it's very tasty, it really, really is. So Steve's just going to cook down the veg. We'll add the noodles to it and the sauce all together, and then that's our dinner pretty much done.
Okay, so I knew my pan was really hot there. So we got our green onion or our scallion in there, and I put one courgette or zucchini because I knew that was high in moisture, which I knew would cook quicker because the pan was really, really hot.
Jeez, oh, the sauce is so tasty. This is really... Do you want a little taste? Yeah, Sorry for teasing you.
Wow.
I'm going to double dip because we're going to be eating this for dinner. And keep the questions coming. The science of cooking, yeah. Our hope is really to empower you so that you can kind of go, okay, like fast cooking dinners, there is the base vegetables, base flavors, like as in, think of in music, there's probably some deeper notes, which are the base ones, and then there's probably ones which are more superfluous and more higher notes. Or the same way in art, you layer different colors on it. And the same way, the base flavors of any dish, like a wet dish, is going to be your strong foundational flavors, which are...
So in the case of this sauce here, so the garlic, ginger, chili, and tamari, they were like the flavor. We use cashew nut butter, about 3 tablespoons. If the sauce was too thin, we put in a little bit more, and if the sauce was too thick, you got to add more water. So cashew nut butter can vary, or peanut butter, that you could have a runny one or a thick one. So that's the part where you want to start actually using your brain and actually taste your food as you go, because although a recipe is a recipe, cashew nut butter will differ depending on where you buy it, whether it's a blanched cashew, or whether it's a roasted cashew, or whether it's someone didn't mix it properly. So engage your brain, and if it's too thick, add a little bit more of the boiling water. If it's too thin, add a little bit more of the cashew nuts.
So colors are super important, and beans are super important. There's that kind of mantra, beans, the more you eat, the more you lower your risk for cardiovascular disease.
Woo!
That is true. That is actually true, because people think that beans make you fart. And sure, they possibly do if you're not used to kind of high fiber foods. But they're so good for your health. I'm often asked, what is my favorite superfood? And I will always say beans. Beans are just so good for you. They really, really are. Okay, our noodles are done.
Quick pause. Many people, when moving vegetable around their chopping board, will move this part of the knife and they'll blunt it. So to avoid blunting your knife, just turn the back of your knife around and you'll have a flat edge. That's much easier. You're not going to be blunting your edge. You just pick it all up and into the pan it goes.
My noodles are cooked.
How do you know if your noodles are cooked, Dave?
I just tasted them. Okay. These are noodles that say that they'll be cooked in 4 to 5 minutes. So I know that they're done.
Okay, cool.
So we're literally going to go in now with our noodles next.
Oh, nice.
In go all our noodles.
We might need a bigger pan.
And then in go our sauce. And that's it. That's our dish. Oh, the sauce is so tasty. This is so Moorish. And obviously we can make more sauce. That's the wonderful thing about it.
So I'll leave you mix that through and I'll chop some courgette. We want some coriander. And do you want some spinach?
So it's really tasty. And this was, as we said, just think through the principles. What were the base flavors we put in here?
Garlic, ginger, chili, and green onion.
And green onion. No, this one was a bit different because we blended it all into sauce, but the main flavors came from the garlic, the ginger, the chili, and the onion, and then the cashew butter, which we blended through water. I boiled noodles, we fried off some veg, added in some tin beans, and put it all together into what is going to be a
What
world-class
what would
dish.
you use instead of, if it wasn't cashew nut butter? Traditionally peanut butter would be used. If you're allergic to peanuts, you could use almond nut butter. And if you're allergic to all nuts, you could simply use some tahini,
Yeah, tahini is great.
which is sesame seed paste.
And note the way Steve put in greens there, really just to kind of balance the colors. You know, colors that we all eat with our eyes. So colors are super important. And colors, another thing in terms of colors, in terms of health, is that like you've all heard of the term antioxidant. Antioxidant refers to, you know, nutrients or kind of compounds in plants that help reduce free radical damage. And antioxidants are best seen by bright colored vegetables. So in this case, we've got the greens, the reds, the yellows, we've got the blacks. So it's full of different flavors.
If your sauce is a little, this you want to serve quickly because the sauce is going a little tighter, a little claggy to it. So if you're kind of waiting for a minute, just put a little bit of water through it. And really important thing with a dish like this is just to season it before you serve it. So just take a fork, same sort of technique as we mentioned last time. Think of those 5 basic flavors: salt, sweet, acid, bitter, and umami. And we've put them all in, but we want to just check, have we kind of harmonized them all? Is there a balance through it? So when I taste it first, as I said last time, you're looking for salt. Oh, wow.
And sorry if we're going really fast. You can see we're super enthusiastic and really, really excited about it.
So with a sauce like this, it's quite tight. It's really strong and delicious. But by me putting a bit of acid through it, it's going to help cut through that fat and add a vibrancy and vitality. That's going to bring the dish together a lot more. So I'm going to go with lime. You could use lemon, you could use orange, you could use grapefruit, you could use some sort of vinegar if you didn't have either.
And as I mentioned, everything we cook is going to work great for a meal prep. So we're just going to add this into little tubs. And this would be like waste. Typically 30% of the produce you buy and the food you buy at home is wasted. So saving containers from takeaways or having plastic containers is super important. This dish will freeze well, it will refrigerate well, as will both the other ones. And I know typically, oh, Stephen's going to...
This was just Lucy was looking for dinner.
Yeah, okay, this is Lucy's dinner. There you go, Lucy, you can rate it out of 10 for us. But realistically, like these will freeze really well. A lot of people might go, oh, noodles don't really freeze that well. But when you use whole wheat noodles, they really do. I've done it so many different times. As did whole wheat pasta as well. It actually freezes quite well. And I'd always freeze them in individual portions because then you'll just take it out and you can heat it up in whatever your preferred way.
In terms of just garnishing that, I think a few kind of chopped peanuts is lovely on top. Just a few of them makes a nice little pop to it. Or cashew nuts, just something like that just makes it a little wedge of lime.
Just something that has a contrast to texture, like it could be za'atar if you're kind of fancy or thinking Middle Eastern, or it could be kind of flaked almond. It could be anything that has a contrast to texture, because you know, texture adds to the flavor of things. Taste typically refers to your salt, sweet, bitter, acidic, and umami, whereas flavor comes from texture. It comes from many other aspects of things. Great. It comes from the smell, really. Flavor comes from the aromatics from your nose.
Okay, cool. You want to wrap that one up?
Yeah, I'm just going to finish plating this up.
Okay, so that was just a simple noodle satay. Easy to make. How long did it take?
Probably took us 10 minutes, including all the waffling.
Okay,
Could
great.
be 12.
So just a few key takes away from that. The sauce is kind of the main driver of flavor, and the main backbone of the sauce was there's water, and we emulsified it with a peanut butter. In this case, we used cashew nut butter. Flavor agents for that were garlic, ginger, chili, and we put a little bit of tamari through it. And there's a question about the 4-week course. Can you explain? Sorry, I got that. Dave, can you explain to Irma what happens with the 4-week course? Can you explain what happens?
So as you can see, we're super excited and we really want to inspire as many people as possible. We're starting a vegan cooking challenge. It starts next Monday and it's for 4 weeks. And it's really about empowering you. We've got 3 live masterclasses, which one's going to be next Monday, the 21st and the 28th. And then we're doing 4 workshops as well. So me and Steve are hosting them all. As well as you've got access to our course where you can go through over the next year, which is all the lessons. Will it be in a Facebook group? No, we've got a group on our app. So it's all on our app where we've got a closed community there. So it's, we moved it away. Like back years ago, we used to use Facebook groups. And a lot of people complained because they said, oh, Facebook, I'm off Facebook, I'm not on it. So we went and we built an app and invested tons of money. And it's really all about supporting people to eat more veg and be healthier. Because we found in our own lives that the more plant-based we've eaten, the better we've felt. And food gives you so much agency in terms of, you know, the planet and helping the planet, because plant-based choices inherently have a lot less energy, water, and
How much is it?
Oh, the course is we're doing an early bird special at €79. So it's €79 until Wednesday at midnight.
Okay, cool.
And we really want to get as many people involved. Like learning to cook will save you time, money, and it's just such a skill that like will help your friends, your family, and so many others.
And I also think like learning to cook will not only connect you to your food, like as in where the carrots, where they in season, where the sweet potatoes from, which will connect you to the land, which will ultimately bring you more happiness. So I think it's a lifelong skill that's beautiful. And even if you're someone that doesn't think you like cooking, you'll be surprised.
So we're gonna get a soup we're gonna get a soup going right now just to show you a soup because we did 3 base dinners. Do you want to do this one or do you want to do it?
Let's do the soup because soup is something obviously we're at the end of summer in Ireland. We really haven't had summer, so soup is a great one to know how to make. We're kind of in prime soup season given the amount of rain. So we're gonna just talk you through the basics of soup.
Okay, so soup is you're always gonna start with your foundation.
Can I just show you how to dice an onion?
No.
Just a simple way, just
really
to show.
quick.
So
What
an
time
onion.
35 past.
Okay,
35 past, wow.
So an onion, this is the top of an onion that'll grow up, and this is the bottom part, which is the root. So I've just cut it in half. I'm going to peel it. Just peel off the outer layer. These were grown on the farm, so they're really sweet.
Well, time goes super quick. I hope you've got a bit of time because we do have a good few more dishes we'd like to get through, and we will try to impart as much knowledge as we can, and we'll try to make it as relevant.
In terms
as
of dicing an onion, as I mentioned, the top there, the bottom there, I'm going to chop the top off. This is just simply how to dice it. I'm leaving the rootstock on, and I'm just going to score it across like this. So I'm scoring it that way. I'm going to go in like that just to show you. So what I've done is I've kind of opened up the onion like that. So when I cut it, it's a lot easier. And I'm just ding, 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 ding.
These are onions from our farm. We've got a 4-acre regenerative organic farm. So I guess we've been doing this for 20 years and realized that the more we can learn about our food, the better. And I guess farming has been the next kind of way that we've wanted to learn more and become more in control of things. Will you share the recipes? The early bird is over. No, the early bird should be on it now. You'll get an email after this with the link to it, but it should be on the website. If you click on Lucy, will post up the website, the link to it now. And that has it has the early bird on it, which is €79. Yeah. So it's really, really good. It's going to be like we go through the course itself has 66 lessons in it. And the course, it's online, but in person, like it's not in person because we're in Greystones really, and a lot of people are joining from all over the world. So, but the masterclasses are actually live. Like we'll be doing one in the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. And we've got workshops every week for the 4 weeks. So there's 7 live classes, which you can all watch back on it. And very exciting. So in terms of the soup, once again, I'm going to start with a tiny little bit of oil. And once again, you don't need to use oil. I'm going to go in with a little spray of oil. Stephen's going to add the onion now.
So this is roughly diced onion. That was 2 onions.
We're going to blend this, so
yeah.
So we're winning. So in goes the onion.
So as I said, flip the knife over so the back is facing, so that I'm not blunting that knife that I've worked hard to sharpen. And in goes our dice. The reason why I dice it is because it exposes more flesh of the onion, so it's going to enable more caramelization. And with a soup like this,
stir that out, chop.
With a soup like this, I want the onions to caramelize. We want them to go a little bit brown. So caramelization is a fancy word for where it goes through the Maillard reaction, which is an indication of flavor development and a little bit of acid development too. I'm going to go with a little bit more oil in there.
Soup, I think, is so basic and simple. I'm going in with some carrots. They're roughly chopped because we're going to blend this soup. So I'm just going to, like, the thing about soup is I'll put a pan, I'll get it going on a medium to hot heat, and I'll keep chopping the veg and adding them in as I go. In this case, we're going to make a sweet potato, cashew, and chili soup.
Dave, do you have a vegan cookbook?
We've got lots of cookbooks.
We've 6 best-selling cookbooks. One of them is called Vegan Cooking for Everyone, which I love. But the main thing that we want to talk about today is that we've got an ultimate vegan cooking course, which is a live course, as well as one that you can do at your own pace, which is starting Monday the 14th, and it's going to be on special. So we'd love you to consider joining it because we really think it's such an important life skill to learn. Yeah. And it's not about people becoming vegan or vegetarian, but it's just simply about learning how to cook with more veg because it's a whole different skill set.
So we're going in here with sweet potatoes. So I've added onion, I've added some carrot.
So what's a rough framework for making soup, Dave?
So my stock will always be onion and carrot. I might put some garlic if I have some lying around or some chili. And And then in terms of this, you want the right balance. It's probably about, I can't remember a framework.
It's typically around 50%. I'd say 50 to 60% stock, and that stock can be just water with a bit of bouillon if you want to be real lazy. If you want to just keep it literally just water, that works absolutely fine too. So there's many ways, but typically it's around 50 to 60% liquid. You got about 25% base veg. And as Dave said, base veg, typically what we'll use, if you think about a French mirepoix, which would be onion,
celery.
Onions, well, that's onion, celery, and carrot. We prefer not to use celery. Celery is an allergen, and I also don't really like celery that much. So we're just going to simply use some onion, carrot, and in this case, sweet potato will function as a base veg too, as well as a flavor agent.
And note with the carrot here, the knife skills, like I'm just rolling the knife, gently rolling the knife. I don't even need to look at it. You know, knife skills are just so important.
And you're leaving the skin on the sweet potato, Dave.
And the app, I love your recipe. I'm delighted. Thanks, Tracy, you're a star. What's that, Steve?
You're keeping the skin on both the carrot and the sweet potato.
Yeah.
I always peel mine, Dave. Why
No, you don't.
Okay.
You're only playing with me. I'll typically never peel my onions, like my carrots or my root vegetables. Minerals, obviously, all of us need as much minerals as we can. And minerals, all minerals come from the soil, such as calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, manganese. All these minerals, they all come from the soil itself. So on the vegetables themselves, the skin is the bit that's going to have the most amount of minerals. So just make sure, give them a good clean, give them a scrub, but leave the skin on always. It's got lots of fiber. We like it spicy, so I'm going to go in here with a little bit of chili as well. There's a question there. Can you do the soup in a soup maker? Will it come out as good? You absolutely can do it in a soup maker. I'm just showing it in a simple way like this.
I never use onion, only garlic and ginger. Cool. Onion, you know, I think onion is a very sweet veg, but obviously if you don't like it, leave it out. Typically, if you're someone that struggles with high FODMAP food, just use the green part of a leek or else the green part of a scallion. Or obviously just leave it out if you want. But leek is a great alternative to an onion that we love. That's
so
sweet. Really,
if you went to, like if we went to, yeah, we're mirror twins. Yeah, good one, Kerry. So if you went all watching what I do now, and if I was like, this is most of the soup is ready now. What I would literally do is I'd add in a little bit of water, I'd pop the lid on, reduce it to low to medium, and I'd let it stew and steam in its own heat for probably 5 to 10 minutes. But in this case, we're just going to go fast forward. So just imagine I've added a little bit of boiling water or water, like as in probably 50 to 100 mil. I've popped the lid on, I've reduced it to slow to medium, and it's just stewing away there. And after I've done that, I'm going to add our cashews. This is going to be a cashew nut based in sweet potato soup.
How many cashews you got there? About 200 grams?
No, that's about 100 grams. But like once again, this is very adaptable once you understand the basic principles.
So the cashews are bringing a fat. A nut typically will be about a fat content of around 50%. So what the nut will do is, as it cooks, it'll kind of soften, and when we blend it, it's just going to bring a more richness and a more satiety or satiation to the soup. So I'm just cooking off.
Yeah, you could
great.
absolutely use cashew
you are,
butter if
nice
you didn't want to buy both. Or peanut butter. Both these soups could have been peanut butter based, but we had cashews, and I just wanted to show you something a little different. So we're going in with the water now. I'd probably add in at least kind of double the volume of the vegetables with water. I'd pop it on a high heat, back up to high heat, put a lid on it, and bring it to a boil. Please go in with a little more water. There we go. And that's our soup. Literally, I'll leave that stew away while we do a couple of other dishes. So, boom. Soup done. And this is going to be a smooth soup. So we are going to blend it with the stick blender. Very exciting. Guys, do you not peel your carrots? Oh yeah, we answered that one. One of you is right-handed and the other left-handed. Are you twins? Yes. We're both identical twins. I'm right-handed, he's left-handed. I'm right-footed, he's left-footed.
Anthony wrote, is celery not one of the superfoods? I think all veg are superfoods, really. I think to isolate one can possibly be a little bit, reductionistic. I think an ultimate superfood are beans, and the more variety of beans, as they're so high in fiber, and that they're kind of a higher protein content.
Great question. Angela said, do you not need to soak the cashews? Because the cashews are going into water, they'll just soak in it anyway. And as they're being boiled, they'll just soften and it'll blend super smooth anyway.
I might set this to over here just as a station to cook.
Yeah, okay.
Question, what's the difference between a masterclass and a workshop?
So masterclass and a workshop. Masterclass, we've got 3 cameras here. We've got Shawnee here, and it's going to be very hands-on cooking. Whereas a workshop is going to be at my house. It's going to be me and Stephen on a phone, or a laptop. It's going to be very intimate. We're going to go through in the workshops. We're going to go through simple things like snacking, making energy balls, fermentation, and basic simple things like that, and be a lot more interactive with it. Whereas the masterclass is very much about imparting information, because each week we go through, there's 4 weeks of the course, there's like breakfasts and lunches and soups and salads and quick easy dinners and centerpiece dinners and fermentation and all these various elements, and each week you'll have lessons to go through them all. And yeah,
And it's one of the whole fun things of this whole cooking course is that everyone's going to do it together.
yeah, the wonderful thing about this is that, like, you know, cooking is one of those things that you go, oh, I'll learn it when I'm older, I'll learn it later. But this bus is leaving town next Monday. It's 4 weeks, and it's all about empowering you. And what we'll really encourage you to do is to cook a number of times each week. We'll encourage you to try to cook 7 times during the week. And that's not necessarily dinners. That can be breakfasts, because breakfasts are quick and easy and get in the habit. But it's really about just, unless you intentionally focus on this type of thing, you're not actually going to pick up this new skill. So there we go. Okay, so we're now going to go on and we're going to show you how to make a simple hummus. As part of a meal prep, hummus is really important and easy.
And we literally make tons of hummus per week. So we make about 20,000 tubs a week. So we really do know lots about hummus. Obviously hummus can be quite personal, but I guess we've learned how to kind of make one that has mass appeal. So we're going to make a very simple one here, and hummus can be very cheap and very affordable. And the beautiful thing about making it in your own home is that you can customize it to your own palate, because some people like a real emulsified kind of whipped up hummus that has a high oil content, that's really creamy, that's almost like mayonnaise. Some people like a more tahini based Middle Eastern one where there's about 50% of the hummus is tahini, so it's real, like we often joke that it's like tile grout. And some people like a really acidic one, or one high in cumin. So we're going to show you a nice neutral one. So basic ingredients to hummus: you have lemon, you have garlic, you have tahini, you have chickpeas, you got salt, you got water, and you might have a bit of cumin seed. I like cumin, you can obviously leave it out. We do many different inclusions, if you will, from roasted red pepper. We do a Moroccan style, we do a beetroot one, we do lots of different ones. But here we're just going to show you just a simple neutral one.
So when you're using, we'll always use tin beans. It's just easier. When I'm making it at home, I'll always use tin beans. Just make sure and give them a really good rinse, because you want to rinse off all that kind of suds, the kind of foam that comes off them, because that can often result in flatulence.
There's Kerry Cooks, and I wish I could afford the course. I've learned a lot from getting your books from the library and from your social media. Kerry, if you can't afford it, send us an email and we can try to look after you. Yeah. So anyone who's struggling, can't afford it, it's on early bird right now. It's €79. If people can't afford it, send us an email. But we found if people do pay, they appreciate more and they get more out of it.
So we really encourage you to sign up, because when you invest money, you typically invest time retrospectively and go with it. Yeah, you'll literally save the price of the course back within the first 2 weeks, because it really is about empowering you to learn the basics. You will not need to go out and buy super fancy stuff. Like tamari is about the only thing which I do buy and use, but the likelihood is you probably have soy sauce in your press at home.
So in terms of
early bird until Wednesday night, yeah.
So we've used 2 tins of chickpeas. That's 2 400-gram tins, which we've drained and rinsed. So we've a total of about 500 grams of chickpeas. So for each tin, typically a rule of thumb is to put in 1 clove of garlic. And with garlic, if you are garlic sensitive, this is often a French thing. When you see a garlic starting to sprout that's gone green, just take it out by crushing it in your hands. You see the way it's starting to sprout there? Just pull that bit out. That's going to bring, that's often associated, at least in French cooking, that's going to bring a bit of stomach issues. So we've got the 2 cloves of garlic, tahini. So with tahini, if you're not familiar with it, is ground sesame seed paste. There are 2 typical varieties. You'll get a light tahini or a dark tahini. It will separate, like here, if you can see in the overhead camera. I'll show the overhead camera, Shawnee. You'll see that it's separated. So just mix it together. And typically I'll go with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of tahini per tin of chickpea. So in this case, I'm going to go with approximately 4 to 6 tablespoons of tahini. You know, if you like more, obviously put more in. So I'm just showing you here that in terms of, like we said, meal prepping basics, like just to show you how many dinners we'll have made on this. And obviously we've been organized and we're professional chefs. But you could do this yourself in an hour and a half. You could get a certain amount of dishes. Like we've got 4 dinners here plus Lucy's, that's 5. We've got 5 dinners here. And I haven't even included the couscous with it. We've got soup on the boil, which will be ready within kind of 15, 20 minutes.
And there's happy shape is my dream. One day I will do it. Yeah, it is really good.
Dziękuję bardzo, Agnieszka. So, recap. 2 tins of chickpeas, 2 cloves of garlic, and about 6 tablespoons of tahini. I'm going to go with about a tablespoon of ground cumin because I love cumin in hummus. I've got, generally I go with 1 lemon, 1 medium-sized lemon per tin of chickpeas. So in this case, I'm going to start with 1.5 lemons just to see where we're at.
And water is super important just to make it all blend. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of water, probably approximately 10 tablespoons. Something like that to start with.
Okay, great. And salt. Salt is the most one of the most important things with chickpeas, or with making tahini, or making hummus. What's that? Are you considering how shy you clearly? You boys have done brilliantly considering how shy you clearly are. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Come on, Alan Hughes.
Really,
I
really
love
shy.
it. Okay, lid for the blender. Is the lid for the blender? Yes, there it is. Okay, so recap. Wait.
Okay.
You're really excited. 2 tins of chickpeas, 2 cloves of garlic, about 6 tablespoons of tahini, went with about 1 teaspoon of salt, juice of 1 lemon really, and we went with about 8 to 10 tablespoons of water. And what you're trying to do with hummus is 1, texture, 2, season it, and 3, get that balance between acid and garlic.
Woo! There's some great questions coming in. I've done the Ultimate Vegan Cooking course, Happy Gut and Happy Gut. They're all the best vegan courses I've ever done. Looking forward to next. Brilliant. Well, this one's very much like it is starting and finishing. So everyone starts together and everyone finishes together, which I'm so excited about. And there is a lot of workshops and masterclasses in it. So what time will your courses be? So our masterclasses are going to be this time, like they're the next 3 Monday nights. So 7 o'clock on the 14th, 21st and 28th of August. And our masterclasses are 5 p.m. on the Wednesday or Thursday of each of the 4 weeks, Thursday. And they're going to be Irish time, but you'll be able to watch them all back if it doesn't suit you.
In terms of the hummus here, when I taste it here, it's quite salty. So the main way of how I dilute the salt is that I got to add more water. So I'm going to add more water, a good bit more water to absorb it. I'm going to go with a little bit more acid. So what I do is kind of midway through, you're taking a check just to go, does it need more water? Does it need more acid? How's that balance between tahini and acid? So I'm going to go with a little bit of juice of...
No herbs in the hummus. You can obviously, like, we're just going to show you basic hummus here now.
But
as we said, like, we make hummuses with roasted beetroot, roasted carrot, you know, roasted red pepper hummuses. There's so many different types. And obviously you can put flat parsley or basil or whatever type of herbs you want in it. Why isn't there olive oil in our hummus? Well, the olive oil is just going to add more calories. It will add a certain lightness to it. We typically don't use an olive oil in it. Stephen might hear now, just in honour of you, Annika. Just a little bit. But we'll typically keep the added calories out of it. Yeah, our kind of measurements are quite...
So most food companies, when you're making a hummus, fat has twice the calories when compared to protein and carbohydrates. So if you do make a food that's higher in fat, it's going to be higher in calories, which means higher in pleasure. So by me adding that bit of oil at the end, which is about 2 to 3 tablespoons, it whips it up, creates more of a mayonnaise-like texture, gives this silky smooth texture, and it'll also dilute that salt.
Very tasty.
Oh, I like the lemon.
Don't use the peel of them. You absolutely can.
Yeah, of course.
We didn't. Steve wants a little more water. I think we're fine. I think we're winning. Go away to that.
Too salty to me. Yeah, exactly. And if you want to use the peel of the lemon, just slice it like that.
Will you be able to print out the recipes? I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, on the app.
There's certainly on the app you can.
You can do it in the desktop.
Okay, so that's our hummus done, ready to go. Stephen's made this very smooth, so it's more like a paste than a hummus.
Yeah, and if you did want to make it thicker, how would you do it, Dave?
Just add more chickpea.
And season it up again.
Yeah.
So with hummus, it's down to seasoning it down to your own palate. Hummus is a real personal thing. You know, like what I find is when I make hummus, you got to taste it at least 4 or 5 times, which is quite a fun bit of it. So you'll have a basic recipe, but don't be afraid of customizing it to your own palate. And the only way you do that is by tasting it, not overthinking about it, and don't approach it with fear. Try to approach it with, wow, what can I do to add this to make this even better? Can we watch masterclasses later? Of course you can, absolutely can.
You'll be able to watch them all back. So hummus will last for probably about 4 to 5 days at the very least in your fridge. It does freeze well.
Oh, I like that.
Typically we find it will last up to a week, but some people will say it'll only last 3 or 4 days. I personally find it lasts a lot longer. I personally find you will get, most of the time you will get a week. And I'll store it in a sealed container at the back of the fridge.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So that's our hummus. That's part of our meal prep. Great job, team.
If you did want to make your hummus with carrot, you'd roast your carrot. If you do want to make it with beetroot, you'd roast your beetroot and similar. Typically, the sweetest of all veg is beetroot. Second sweetest is carrot. So they do bring a nice sweetness to it.
So our veg have nearly boiled. Have they? No, they haven't boiled. Okay. We're not going to blend our soup yet because it's not ready. The app can be found under the App Store. Okay, I'm going to get another. I'm just going to clean out our food processor and we're going to finish with one last dish. Do we have time for one last dish?
Are we doing time?
55.
55. Okay, do you want us to do one last dish?
Do we have
Vote. Thumbs up, thumbs down. A few seconds.
Fill your
left.
pain, April Davy. I have to cook carnivore and be. Oh wow, poor thing. Yeah, I think at least with my kids, there's a question there about kids. Vegan is a dirty word. Typically, like at my house, when I cook for my children, they're still young. My eldest is 12, but at home, like it's either go hungry or eat vegan, and that's it. And we don't call it vegan. It's just healthy food. And to try to, the more at least my children are involved in the cooking process. Oh, loads of yeses, great. Oh, thanks a million. Wow, Jesus, thank you so much. Good on you. The more my kids are involved in the cooking process, even the growing process, the more they're kind of invested in making the food taste nice. So I think the more, yeah, my children are involved in it. Wow, geez, look at all those comments. Good on you. Thanks for
grab that food processor. We're going to do one more final
We're going to make
dish.
just a simple, healthier cookie dough balls that are very easy and very straightforward. In terms of somebody who wanted to use some lemon peel in the hummus, just what I did, you can obviously use a potato peeler or something similar. I just sliced it a little bit off. Try to avoid using too much of this white pectin because it's quite sharp and pectin-y and really, really almost like quinine. So it's just mainly take that bit and slice it up finely. So now we're gonna make
a chocolate chip cookie dough ball. You could give that just a little wipe. And I'm going to clean the lid of the food processor and then we're ready to go.
Okay, so traditionally in a cookie dough, you'll have white flour. Oh, Paolo Sabatini, all right, Paolo.
Paolo's daughter's a brilliant chef.
Good man,
He was
Paolo.
sending me brilliant videos of his daughter. She's
Paolo
really
has
good.
a restaurant in
Maria. Very, very good. Okay, so this is, these are cookie dough balls. These are great snacks. I'd really, really recommend these as snacks. They're simple, they're easy. Think equal part dates, equal part cashew nuts. And if you want it even tastier, you could roast the cashew nuts. But in
What
this
makes
case,
these healthier to a traditional cookie dough bowl?
a traditional cookie dough ball,
What's in a cookie dough?
a cookie is flour, butter, and sugar. That's typically a cookie. And in this case, we're going to make it out of dates and cashew nuts. And the dates are going to give the sweetness while also having the fiber. And the cashew nuts are going to give the kind of fat, and they'll also give fiber and other nutrients as well.
Okay, cool.
So
Right.
you will need a food processor with this, or you could use a, you might be able to use a blender, but I doubt it. So first up, we're going to blend our cashew nuts.
So we got our cashew nuts. If you are allergic to cashew nuts, you could use seeds. Ciao, Paolo. Pablo Sabatini. Will the ingredients used cooking class generally be available not in health food stores? So typically we'll use easy to get ingredients, and you'd be surprised because when most people go to the supermarket, they'll go down the same aisles as they normally do, so they don't typically find these different ingredients. Can I just finish?
Yeah, I'm just going to blend these until the bread come like consistency. So my food processor was a little bit wet, so they're probably going to stick a tiny little bit. I probably should have taken the time to dry it properly, but it will work great all the same. So what were you going to say, Steve?
Most ingredients you'll be surprised.
So you're not talking. I just want to get this done properly.
Okay, cool. Most ingredients you'll find in the supermarket, you'd be surprised, most supermarkets do stock them. Can I use raisins? Of course you can. Dates, though, typically will be bigger and they just have a more binding property. Dates come in many varieties. They're a bit like apples. There's hundreds of different varieties. We're simply using a cheap, organic, pitted date. Pitted meaning the stone is removed. If you can afford it, medjool dates are even nicer.
And it doesn't need to be organic. Like our preference is organic, but like everyone is coming from different places. So like I think it's about starting to eat the vegetables and the fruits. And then as you move further down and your health becomes more and more a priority, then we would recommend organic. Like we've been at this for 20 years and organic is super important for us. but for yourself it may not be.
Instead of cashews, you could use almonds, Brazil nuts, etc.
Walnuts.
So here's 2 dates. This is just a pitted date where the stone is removed, and this is a medjool date, which is kind of like a toffee. It's got a higher moisture content, but it has the pit or the stone in the middle.
There is, for anyone who's Middle East, they'll know that there's hundreds of different varieties of dates, so many different ones. I know my house, my wife likes cola dates and she likes kiddery dates, which I'd only heard of them recently, and they are very good. She lived in the Middle East. So we've added equal part cashew nuts or nuts of choice and dates, or it could be raisins. So 100 grams of each. Steve popped in a little bit of vanilla extract there, and we'll put in a tiny little bit of water just to make sure it blends.
Nice.
Yeah, so we can add that in as it spins.
And the water is largely down to the dates being too thick or too thin.
So there probably is a little bit of moisture in the food processor. The food processor will just beat this up for a minute or two, and it will form it together into a nice tight ball. Equal parts. Yeah, I've just got 100 grams of dates and 100 grams of cashew nuts. And once again, yeah, see the way it comes together like a cookie dough ball. I'm just going to go in with a tiny little bit. If you ever make cookie dough balls, it'll always come together as you kind of as you're folding it together.
So it literally comes together as a ball like that.
Yeah, very simple, very tasty, and there will be lovely sweetness coming from the dates here.
And you'd be surprised how good these taste for simply dates and nuts. And one of the beautiful things about dates is, although they're high in sugar, they're really high in fiber, so they will fill you up. As Dave said, these are chocolate chip cookie dough. So if you want to, you could put chocolate chips through them. But a healthier alternative is to put some cacao nibs. So all chocolate comes from a cacao bean, and this is simply a roasted cacao bean that's been winnowed, which is a fancy term for the skin being removed or the husk removed. So you're getting that chocolate taste without the added fat and the added sweet. Obviously add in more if you want and fold it through.
Yeah, and we're literally just going to fold it through with a spoon here now.
I like loads of nib.
Well, Steve likes loads of nibs. You could just put, like, if you're making these for kids and you think kids won't eat them, you could put some dark chocolate chips.
Or even white milk, whatever, you know.
It's probably easier to use your hands. Maybe I'll use a spoon just because everyone's watching me. But it's literally just folding it through. And these are great snacks. They'll last for weeks. They really, really will. But the reality is you'll probably eat them within the week.
And you'd be surprised with these. You go, the lads kind of just made simple cashew and date balls. They're not great. But you'd be surprised how tasty they are. So simply roll them like that. You could roll them, you could cover them in cacao powder if you want, which is a little bit bitter. Cover them in chopped pistachio, some freeze-dried raspberry, some chopped mango. Stud them in some cacao nibs. I'll show you here how to stud them.
Stud them, so
Well, it sounds cool.
It sounds like some kind of, like you're getting ready for some parade.
Some sort of parade. Thanks,
but yeah,
Dave.
so as we said, on this masterclass, we've showed you how to make quick, easy dinners. We showed you some of the basics of €1 meals, of how to cook €1 meals. We made hummus. And obviously there's so many different ways you can pimp up hummus. We made a simple cookie dough bowl, and the soup is starting to boil now, so I could blend it and season it. But the soup is really, really simple again. But really, our hope is to demystify plant-based cooking. And as Stephen said, it's not about vegan or vegetarian. These put people off. It's about eating more veg and whole foods, because most of us don't eat enough on a daily basis. And we've got our vegan cooking challenge. It's starting next Monday, the 14th of August.
Studded, look.
Oh, look, there's studded.
Wow,
look Stevie, it's so impressive.
Thank you, David.
Studded.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. So our vegan cooking challenge, it starts next Monday, the 14th of August. It runs for 4 weeks. It's going to be hands-on, so really, really well. We'll encourage you to cook different dishes each week.
There's loads of links here to learn more, and as Dave said, there's an early bird until Wednesday.
Yeah, so it's just €79, and Steve said if you can't afford it, send us an email, ask@thehappypear.ie or academy@thehappypear.ie. But we'd really encourage you to pay, because when you pay, you actually have invested energy into it, and you're much more likely to get the value from it, because when things are given for free, lots of people don't necessarily give them the value that they deserve.
And even if you can't afford the full price, email us and we'll work with you.
We'd love to work with you. We want to get hundreds of people on this, so we really, really do. And as I said, it's all done in our app, where there's over 300 recipes. You've got access to the course for the full year. But this 4 weeks is really, it's about everyone doing it together. There's a start, there's a finish. And it's all about, we have these masterclasses, we have workshops in it. And together it's really about getting one another going, because cooking is something that tends to be very habitual.
Oh, quick pause. Big shout out to our #1 Canadian fan, the great Julie Groves.
Woo! Thanks a mil. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining. We're really, really grateful.
How do you store the dough? So just keep it in the fridge. It'll last for, in essence, the only thing that's going to reduce the shelf life is a small bit of water in it. Does the cost include the cost of the app?
Yes, it does. Yeah, you get access to the app, which you'll get access to the app for the full year with the course, with the recipes, with the workouts. I do a stretch class twice a week. With all the other lives that are going on, so it's really, really good. What about the soup? Yeah, I'm going to wrap up now because I think lots of people we've requested more. We've used more than an hour of people's time. But the soup, all I literally do is blend it. I taste it, and I'd season it with salt, pepper, maybe some spices. If I think it's a little too thin, I'll add some probably tinned beans to it. If I think it's too thick, I'll add a little bit more water to it.
3 basics for seasoning soup. Number 1, look at color. Most people do not like a brown soup unless it's mushroom. It needs to be a strong, vibrant color. So number 1, look color. Number 2, look texture. And number 3, season it. They're the 3. And with texture, not too thick, not too thin, that kind of right balance. Anyway,
we're going to wrap up. We just want to say thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's our message is all about eating more veg. It's better for your health, better for the planet. It'll save you time and save you money. And we'd really love to invite you to take part in our Ultimate Vegan Cooking Challenge. And we do use that word vegan, but it's about eating more veg, which is going to be better for your health, for your families, and for your friends.
Thanks, Mel. Dzięki, do widzenia. Bye. Cheers, Agnieszka. Bye.
Yeah. Cheers. Mind yourselves. Thanks, Mel, for joining us. Bye.